What's up everyone, Jason aka Fluid Fiction here. Now if you're watching this video, you might be a little confused. If you saw the video I posted last week, you saw me say that my first narrative gaming video would be the only one I posted publicly. Since then, I have sort of changed my mind about that. I decided to make these narrative gaming videos public for everyone to see so that hopefully the idea catches on. Now in order to keep my patrons from feeling like they're sort of getting cut out of the deal here, what I'll be doing is implementing some exclusive voting power. Each time I finish a game, I'll post a poll on my Patreon saying, hey guys, would you like to see me do a narrative gaming video of this game or this game? And my patrons will be able to let me know what they would rather see. So with all that being said, without any further ado, I present to you episode 2 of Elder Scrolls Arena.
The Elder Scrolls, Chapter 1, The Arena. You have been left in this cell to die. Jagar Tharn, Imperial Battle Mage of Tamriel, has taken on the guise of the true Emperor. This is the Staff of Chaos, the one item that can open the door between this world and the dimension to which the Emperor has been banished. I have been able to divine the location of the first piece, a place called Fang Lair. Perhaps there are sages or scholars who would know of this place. The veil of a dark sky draped over the tops of stone buildings with vividly colored stained glass window murals greets your eyes as you step through the shift gate. Behind you, the portal crackles and whooshes, sucking back into itself and dissipating before your eyes, revealing the sealed gates of the wall encompassing the city you found yourself in. You hardly have time to take in your surroundings before something shifts in the darkness out of your peripheral. First, you see a round wooden shield with the painting of a skull with two gleaming crimson eyes. You have no time to consider the symbology, as the monster taking cover behind the small barrier opens its snouted jaws, releasing a furious battle cry and revealing rows of sharpened teeth. Clutched in its right hand is a worthless hand axe swinging wildly. Before you are able to raise your defenses, the creature strikes once, then twice, connecting the axe into your left shoulder and drawing a rush of blood with each blow. Still weary and ill from your battles in the sewers, you hazily recompose yourself, thrusting your blade outwards. It bats the sword to the side with its shield, and you cock your wrist, swiveling the blade, stabbing its jugular. Moaning a painful cry, the beast falls before you. As you look it over, pocketing the gold it was carrying, you notice that while its features seem to be reptilian, its form and shape are that of a humanoid. Lizardmen are just supposed to be the stuff of stories, you remind yourself. Then again, I've never been brave or foolish enough to wander a town after the sun falls to find out for myself before. Welcome to Eldenroot, a plaque on a nearby sign reads, mounted on the stone walls at your back, just to the side of the city gate. Eldenroot, you think to yourself. I've heard of this town. I'm back in Valenwood. The reveries of your home country flash through your mind, nearly making you forget the intensity of the situation. Fang Lair, you remind yourself. Rhea told me that's where I'll find the first piece of the Staff of Chaos, but I'm not going to find anything if I don't get some rest before I'm picked off by some assailant of the night. You scan the horizon for anything loosely resembling an inn or a tavern. Stepping out of the small alcove you arrived in, you see a running fountain to your left and a stone path leading to your right. Skirting the perimeter of the city with your back to the wall to prevent an attack from behind, you pass by several landmarks, including various lampposts, trees, shrubbery, and other sights. It must be near the middle of the night, you think to yourself, observing the pitch blackness of your surroundings. You can hardly see your hands before your face, and as you test this, you're shocked to find odd patches and blotches plaguing your skin. Praying it's not leprosy, you add a trip to the temple for some curing to your mental to-do list when the sun rises in the morning. In addition to this, you hope to sell your meager findings you salvaged from the sewers to buy enough supplies for the trip ahead. After all, what's an archer without her own bow? Bleeding and stumbling, you wander between buildings and alleyways, seemingly endlessly, in search of refuge. While most of the buildings here are only a single level, some of 2 or more stories loom over the others. You startle briefly as a hulking figure with outspread arms materializes from the darkness at your side before you identify it as one of the many intricately carved statues that decorate the elven cities. The moss and vines overgrowing and riddling the statue give it a menacing appearance, but you regard it for what it is and move on, eventually coming to a large grassy clearing surrounded by short stone columns and buildings of red brick and gray stone beyond that. Dismissing this as a common space of a residential area, you move on, hoping to find the market district. A high hedge wall at your side conceals a massive structure that you assume to be a mage's guild. The arcane users tend to love their elaborate and puzzling designs. You never quite trusted the ways of the magician. Anyone who found a cause for celebration in Tales and Talos surely has something to hide. Oh no, you suddenly worry, recalling the approaching holiday. Remembering the time you lost in the sewers, you pray you haven't found yourself wandering on that night of all nights. No other holiday divides the people like the third of Hearthfire. A few of the oldest, more superstitious do not speak all day long, for fear that evil spirits of the dead will enter their bodies. Most citizens enjoy the holiday, calling it Tales and Talos, but even the most lighthearted avoid the dark streets, for everyone knows the dead do walk on that night. While others hide inside their homes, the Mages Guild celebrate what they consider the oldest magical science, necromancy. For anyone brave enough to travel to their shops, all magical items are half price on Tales and Talos. Growls bounce off the walls of an alleyway as you pass through, filling the air around you. You whirl around and quickly prepare to defend yourself, seeing two goblins charging up behind you. One slashes at you with its hand axe, knocking you into a twirl from the force of the blow, combined with your fatigue. With one desperate slash, you bring an end to both monsters, leaving their corpses where they lie. Continuing on as you pass the warm glow of the bright windows shedding light under the darkened streets, you briefly consider forcing entry and begging a family to offer you a bed for the night. The thought passes, however, knowing that your skills as a lockpick are poor, and the locks on these doors have nothing to fear from you. Arriving at what appeared to be the southern portion of the city, the buildings here seemed to be more tightly packed together. You hoped this meant you were nearing the market. Crossing blades with yet another lizard man as you proceed, you see a small sign hanging over a doorway. Praying it's an inn, you move closer only to find the symbols indicate it to be a weapons shop of some sort. Dedicating the shop's location to memory for tomorrow's business, you continue your search. Your senses failing, you nearly pass by a balding man with a long robe. Turning back to him as you notice him, you raise your weapon in defense, until you notice concern assaulting his expression as he looks over your condition. Who are you? Do not fear. I am only Coronis Night Sky, one of the personal priests of Queen Yolandra. Yolandra? You must be new to town. The temple is closed, but if you will allow me, I would wrap your wounds until they can be tended to. Stay away. I'm diseased. Despite your warning, he rests a hand on your shoulder, and a sense of well-being passes over you momentarily, before the ailments of your sickness return. I cannot cure you. For that you must seek the priest at the temple in the morning. However, I have made it so your affliction cannot travel to others. Drawing bandages from beneath the folds of his cloak, he made quick work of stopping your bleeding as well. Please, where might I find the nearest inn? It's very near. Let me show you how close you are. Unfurling the piece of parchment from your inventory, he points to a building just southeast of the one you currently stand outside of. The Blue Giants. An unsavory place to say the least, but you'll find a soft bed and a warm meal there. Thanking the priest, you follow his directions, soon arriving outside the Blue Giants. A sign bearing the image of a glass mug overflowing with foam hangs over the door. You swing open the door and enter the Blue Giants, rubbing the chill night air from your bones and wounds. The tavern is full of people bustling here and there. Patrons shuffle to the sides as they look over your condition, clearing a wide path for you as you make your way to the bar at the far end of the room. A bald, heavy-set innkeeper looks up from the dish he's scrubbing, and takes a step back as you approach with a worried face. Priest Night Sky has seen to me. I am not contagious. I see. What can I help you with? I require rest. Your modest room will do. I have gold to cover any reasonable price. Shame it takes someone in your state to appreciate the single bed. It'll be 10 gold. A bargain, believe me. Fine, you say, disagreeing, but counting the coins from your pouch nonetheless. Limping to your room, you swing open the door and shut it behind you, plopping onto the bed of the far wall, rolling over and sprawling out without a moment to take any details of the room. Instantly, sleep overcomes you. You stir awake to shards of light stabbing in your window. Your sore limbs insist they've been dormant for some time, and checking your wounds, you find the signs of healing. You surmise you must have slept an entire day away. Thankful that Tales and Talas has passed by while you were in the safety of a soft cot, you are once again reminded of your skin condition as you spend your morning washing your clothes and making use of the inn's communal bath. Thankful to finally be free of the murk and grime of the sewers, you can't help to notice other patrons still seem uneager to converse with you as you sip a glass of cider. I can't blame them, you admit to yourself. I'd probably avoid a leper as well, regardless what assurances they offered me. Finding a captive audience in the innkeeper, however, you manage to strike up a conversation to pass the time until the temple opens.
The good news is that this year's harvest looks as good as last year's.
Is there work in the fields? I'm short on coin. Looking over your weapons and your battle scars, the innkeeper says,
I think there might be more profitable work than that for someone of your caliber.
He glances to either side quickly, and then leans in, speaking in a whisper.
Listen, friend. Some of the Queen's men are regulars in here, and they was talking about something going on at the palace. Seems like they was whispering something about Queen Yolandra looking for a mercenary to do a delivery job for her. Maybe she'd be interested in hiring you, Wood Elf.
Why me?
The innkeeper shrugs. You look like you know your way around those weapons you carry. I'd at least go to the palace and see.
All right, you tell yourself several hours later as you make your leave. Temple, shops, palace. Returning outside and relishing in the warm embrace of the sun's rays and fresh air, you quickly find the same priest that offered you directions before, prophesizing on a street corner. Friend, could you tell me where I might find your temple? Unrolling your map once more, he points out an oddly shaped building near the south end of the town. The Conclave of Solitude. There you will find the healing you need. You thank him and continue on your way. The temple was a massive stone building with a design that matched its peculiar representation on the map. Large square hollows in the brick formed windows, stacked uniformly on the top of one another, making it plain to see that the face of the building stood at least 4 stories tall. Massive runes and religious markings were carved into the stone surfaces across several bricks. Stained glass murals adorned the center windows and the frame of the building. A well was stationed only a few paces from a wooden door, which looked modest and minuscule in comparison to the rest of the building. As you enter, you're amazed to see the spectacle before your eyes. The stained glass windows in the Conclave of Solitude Sanctuary catch the rays from the bright autumn sun and transform them into a crystalline fire that lights the braziers flanking the far side of the chamber. Massive relics and ancient treasures of the church line the walls. Tall stands, each with 2 torches at their head, outline a pathway through the center of the room. Your steps echo off the stone walls as you step through the eerily quiet cathedral. Finally, you see a figure at the end of the hall, wearing a rust-colored robe, much like Priest Nightskies. Ah, you must be the wood elf that Nightsky spoke of. Are wood elves so uncommon here? Are we not in Valenwood, home of the wood elves? You will find they are less common here than many other places within the province, as are your elven traditions. So I've heard, and noticed. You require curing of your ailments, no? I do. The price is 130 gold. Your brow shoots up in astonishment at the price given. Nightsky said nothing about a fee. Priest Nightsky has a heart of gold. This could never be argued. If he had his way, we would never charge for our services. However, the church cannot survive on tithes alone. The price is 130 gold. It sounded steep, but his logic was sound, so you paid him without delay. Placing his hand about your shoulder with one hand, and gripping the holy symbol around his neck with the other hand, he began to tilt his head back and whisper softly in the celestial language. You feel the same renewing energy as the other night wash over you. This time, however, your blemishes fade away until they are no more, and your symptoms do not return. Thank you. May the gods be with you. And you as well. You're not entirely sure where you stand with the gods. They've never seemed to decisively answer your prayers, but you don't feel anything you've done as of yet has warranted the significance of their attention. Perhaps now, however, with the weight of your current mission, that would change. Passing by the outskirts of town, You notice several log cabin buildings with steeds and animal handlers outside. You give them a polite wave, but they answer with either uncaring nods or a complete lack of acknowledgement. It would seem this town wasn't entirely welcoming towards outsiders. Disregarding this, you return to the weapon shop you had happened upon at night. As you enter the shop, identified by the sign outside as the Unearthed Equipment Store, golden glints from the fall sun reflect off the many items of interest scattered about. Axes rest on pegs mounted on the walls. Swords of varying length hang from racks pushed neatly against the edges of the room. Deeper in the store, you hear the sound of metal clashing against metal, resounding through the shop. As you approach, you see the blacksmith battering a hot blade into shape with a heavy mallet, long black hair streaming down his bare back. Behind him burns a fiery forge. It takes a moment for him to notice you, before he finally pauses, greeting you. I'm Kogan Spring Lake. You here to buy or sell?
A bit of both.
Let's get the selling out of the way then. That way you know how much coin you're working with for the buying.
Sounds fair.
Cautiously unsheathing the dagger stashed in your breeches, and resting the weapon across your palms for him to inspect. Looking over the blade quickly without much attention to detail, he says, My appraiser's not here, but I bet he wouldn't mind offering you a single gold coin for that dagger.
A single gold coin? You repeat to yourself with shock. Is everyone in this town a coin-grabbing vulture?
Still, realizing your credibility as an outsider seems to hold little sway, you agree. Next, you present the longsword in a similar manner. This he picks from you and looks over with a much keener eye, checking it for straightness and imperfections. It's in good shape, but there's not much market for a steel longsword like that around here. As you can see, I struggle to get rid of what I have in stock. The people of this town don't have much need for sharp steel, and when they do, they seldom have the coin.
That may be changing soon.
What's that?
Recalling Rhea's warning, you decide it's safest to let the topic drop. Thorn has taken on the guise of the Emperor. No one will gainsay his word for yours. So you can't take the sword?
I didn't say that, but the best I can offer is 10 gold.
It's flawless. Surely it should fetch at least 15.
Impatience wrenched at the blacksmith's brow. For that outdated sword, you're lucky I'm even looking at it. Now give me a real price.
13.
Listen, I don't know what you're trying to fool, but I want to hear a real price now. Clearly, you had insulted him, which didn't seem to be aiding you in the negotiation.
12?
You answered. You didn't enjoy being spoken to as a child, and now the insult was almost becoming purposeful. Your mother wouldn't pay that much, kid. How about we call it 11 coins so you feel like you won?
Fine.
You said you were looking to buy as well?
Yes. I'm in the market for a bow. Nothing fancy.
I got a short bow I'll sell you for 10 of those coins back.
Considering how cheap I let those weapons go to you, I think 7 would be far more fair.
This was your last transaction, and you probably wouldn't have need of this shopkeeper's services again, so you intended to get a fair price. Stop playing games with me. Either you make me a serious offer and we conclude this deal, or I'll just barter with someone else. Bows are commonly used for hunting, so they're not as hard of a sale as swords.
Can we compromise on 8?
He seemed to repress an outburst and then regained his composure. I can tell a shrewd bargainer when I see one. If you'd be willing to pay me 9 gold for the short bow, it's yours.
I suppose that'll do,
you say, deciding it's a somewhat reasonable price. After a rather uncomfortable shake of hands, you take your leave as he returns to his work. With the weapon shop and its short-tempered clerk behind you, you manage to quickly locate the overgrown hedge maze that had identified the Mages Guild with relative ease. Navigating the odd pathways between the walls of shrubbery, you eventually find the structure itself at the center. Layers of brick and stone are repetitively stacked atop one another. Golden painted symbols resembling stars and other celestial bodies decorate the walls. Wooden shutters are swung shut over wide windows. You nearly make an entire lap around the building in search of the small wooden door, lampposts spaced evenly about the walkway. As you approach, so does another, advancing from the opposite direction.
Hello.
Few in this town seem to be so forthcoming, so you welcome the kind gesture.
Greetings.
Humans seem to appreciate gestures like that.
Are you a student of the mages here?
Looking them over, they hardly looked like a warrior, but nor did their plainclothes resemble anything as whimsical as the arcane practitioners tended to prefer. I'm not quite that interesting, I'm afraid. They call me Anrim Barnrun, the playwright. Although, I might get my new play performed at the palace soon, so I suppose that's awfully interesting. You must be well informed about the happenings of the city, then. What might you be able to tell me about this city? You wanted to plainly ask why a city in the middle of Valenwood seemed to have such a problem with wood elves, but decided perhaps it would be wiser to be less forthcoming with one of the few people who seemed to be willing to speak with you here. Can't tell you much about the city, I'm afraid. Although I did happen to hear a tale that was a feast for the ears. Do tell. You've heard countless bards' tales, and they all seem to follow the same formula. Besides, human storytellers paled in comparison to the elves. Ever hear of Rajin, the great Khajiit thief? You start to shake your head, but they continue before you do. Probably not, for he stole much more than he was ever blamed for. Partly that was his skill. They seemed to thumb their vacant finger as they said. Partly, however, it was due to his magic ring. A ring that makes for easy thieving. You have no love for those who take what others have worked hard for, yet a tool that would aid you in stealthily delving Jagar's dungeons does intrigue you. If it is true, that is. Rumor has it that there's a chap southwest of here at the Laughing Chasm who knows how to find the ring wherever it resurfaces. Problem is, few people who know about it usually don't have the time to investigate, nor the gold to pay him for his information. I know I sure don't. Can't say that I do either. Really? You certainly look like the type for the stuff of adventures. Just a wanderer, I'm afraid, and not one with much gold to spare. They swing open the door and hold it open for you, allowing you to pass inside. You offer them a grateful nod as you step through. They enter behind you and quickly scurry off to peruse the various wares. While the local farmers have been gathering their crops, it would appear the mages have been collecting a harvest of their own. The Mages Guild is crowded with scrolls, relics, charms, and artifacts. Clearly, some extensive trading between one town's guild to another has been going on this fall. Ancient-looking braziers tucked in the corners seem to have shed more light than they should on a maze-like corridor of the Mages Guild. Looking both ways as you come to a fork, you pick a direction at random, soon coming to meet a man with long flowing white beard draped from his jaw, and a gaudy robe that ran from his shoulders to the floor. He clutched a wand with a shifting orb at its end, and a pointy blue hat set atop his head. It always puzzled you why humans who excelled at magic felt the need to dress as fools. Plenty of elves were well-versed magicians without such silly prerequisites. Hello there. Can I help you find something? I was actually hoping you might just be able to tell me what I have. You've been curious about the amulet you packed in the sewers for some time now. It seemed to have a magical presence about it, and if it was something corrupt, you didn't want to carry it any longer. I can tell you if what you have here is magical, but I'm afraid this is a service we offer, meaning it will cost you 93 gold. You resist the urge to hang your head in defeat, knowing that you have little more than that to your name. Abandoning your desire to barter for a fair price after your last exploit, you agree without issue. He takes the amulet from you and grips it with both hands. A soft glow begins to emit from his palms, and a faint glimmer passes over the entire amulet. Finally, you look up to his face and see him reopen his eyes. 'Tis a dwarven amulet. You may have noticed it carries no weights. Many magical items do not. In addition to this, you'll find it thickens your skin, as well as making you more resilient to your enemy's attacks. I need to know if it's cursed. Its origins are questionable, to say the least. We operate with the utmost discretion, explains the mage. The location of your findings is your own business. I can assure you it carries no curses. Cursed items are truly far rarer than some less educated folks may have you believe. Between you and I, the frequency of such things is a myth, perpetuated by several of us mages to keep prying eyes away from prizes we desire for ourselves. You nod, unsure how you feel about his divulsion. The practice feels inherently dishonest, and yet his honesty on the matter seems genuine. Would you buy it? I would. Happily so.
although I might advise some reconsideration on your part. He nods to your bandaged arm, saying, if you plan on continuing to do whatever it is that earned you that injury and this amulet, it may be of some use to you. He extends his arm outwards, handing the amulet back to you. You doubt your decision, but his logic seems infallible. You tilt the amulet forwards and backwards, watching the string of light bounce from one end to the other, before you make your decision, against your better judgment. What's a few coins against avoiding a potential killing blow? Perhaps you would find this form more suitable, he says, taking the amulet from your hands once more. You watch as his fingers begin to glow with the same faint light as before, and he seems to mold the form of the amulet beneath his fingers, eventually making a gap at the center and widening it until it was just a circular band. A subtle headdress. It seems to phase through your hair magically, resting snugly around your forehead. A gift, in hopes of earning myself a returning customer. Admiring your reflection in the crystal orb atop his staff, you can't deny you appreciate the gesture. You wish to procure some healing potions as well, but knowing you only have 30 gold left, you decide not to press his generosity by trying to haggle him into accepting such a meager payment. Bidding the wizard farewell and exiting the halls of the Mages Guild, you're pleased with how quickly your mental checklist seems to be getting completed. Having finished your errands and still with no leads on the location of Fang Lair, you now head to the palace to see what work the Queen has to offer. Perhaps you'll complete a few odd jobs and earn enough coin for the potions you need before setting off blindly into the wilderness. Recalling that you remember seeing the palace near where you entered the town from the shift gate, you make your way north through the streets, obtaining some directions from a couple townsfolk to redirect you along the way. Finally, you step through the prestigious palace gates. It is the busiest season of the year in Eldenroot, as the palace's audience chamber is filled with area farmers discussing their harvest with Queen Eulandra. Many linger in the room after their business is through, procrastinating the return to their burning fieldwork. They seem to be talking mostly about Eldenroot being suddenly at peace with its nearest neighbor, Sylvanar, and how this will change the trade throughout the province. Walls of gleaming white bricks stand to either side of the elegant red carpet, leading from the entryway deeper into the palace. Immaculate banners of artwork with painstaking attention to detail hang on either side of the chamber. Guards in full armor of plate and mail standing by with spears and large shields at the ready flank the path into the main hall. At the far end of the chamber sits Queen Eulandra, a fine silk gown of white with gold trim draped over her, brunette hair seeming to flow out of her beautiful crown, a gold scepter with an emerald charm clutched across her lap. Queen Eulandra, my name is Z. I am a traveler of sorts. I require coin to fund my exploits. I have come here because your townsfolk tell me you have work. She gestures for you to rise, greeting you with an air of royalty. Welcome to my city-state, Z. Your arrival is fortuitous, for I have a favor to ask. If you would deliver something for me, I would reward you in gold. Would you be interested in hearing more? Most certainly. If you would agree to take this note to the Lady of Heimdar City, southwest of Eldenroot, by Sundus, 13th of Hearthfire, I can promise you 431 gold pieces from the representative there. You will find the lady's representative in used sundries. I believe the Thieves Guild will try to stop this shipment, but my council believes otherwise. We are agreed that you should be ready for any encounter. It may be very dangerous indeed, but you will be 431 gold coins richer if you reach used sundries by Sundus, 13th of Hearthfire. Taking a breath as she completed her explanation, she asks, Do we have a deal? The trip would be daunting, as you would have to ride hard to reach Heimdar City by the deadline, and you would hope to do some work in town instead of traveling before you acquired potions, but you dared not try to negotiate with the Queen after how poorly your previous bargaining exploits had gone over. Still, over 400 gold would be a hearty start to your journey. Not wanting to waste too much of the Queen's time deliberating, you finally answer,
We do. Excellent, Z. You are brave indeed. I and all of Eldenroot will be relying on you. Move quickly, take care of yourself, and may good fortune be yours. Thank you, my queen. It seems odd to see a human sit atop the throne in Eldenroot, but based off your interaction so far, she doesn't seem to share the same distaste for your kind as her citizens. Have I been away in Imperial City for too long? You wondered to yourself. Could this much have really changed? Once outside, you refer to your map, confirming that Heimdar City lies where you believed it to be. It won't be easy to make it there in time, you tell yourself, but I'll do the best I can. You require a steed, but you've never had an issue procuring one from the wild before, due to your elven heritage and your affinity for wildlife. You push yourself and your steed to the breaking point, traversing roads and occasionally dipping off into fields where they were flat enough to allow. You camped as seldom and as briefly as possible, finding a new steed each time you do and releasing the previous one from its service. As the days drag on, you count them meticulously. It is on the final day that you realize you have failed to accomplish your quest, as it is already the 14th of Hearthfire. Still, so near to the city walls and weary from your travel, you find the place seems to beckon for exploration.
One more thing before I go, I did want to shout out my patrons really quick. Bailey Royale, Toxique, That Book Mom, and Jen. Thank you guys so much for supporting the Patreon.